It's called the roof of the world, and for decades reaching Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, has been daunting for travellers. Beijing's train to Lhasa, though controversial, has changed all that. NDTV's Aradhana Sharma took this rather eventful ride on the train to Lhasa.
In 1902, when Swedish explorer Sven Hedin made his journey mapping areas of northern Tibet, he failed in his attempts to reach Lhasa. In 1903, when France's young husband was dispatched by Lord Curzon to Lhasa to protect British interests in Tibet, his army took over a year before they could march into Lhasa. 100 years later, the journey to the roof of the world is no longer as daunting. This train from Beijing to Lhasa that started last year covers over 4,000 kilometers over 48 hours and has been taking more and more people to Tibet, changing its very demographics. A year ago, for these opera singers from Tibet, this trip to Beijing may not have been possible. It's the first time they've been able to showcase their skills to the outside world, and it's been made possible by this train. The train, which started in July last year, has not only considerably reduced the geographical distance by cutting down the cost and time taken to travel to Lhasa, but it's also helping bridge the socio-cultural gulf. This young man from China is traveling to Lhasa to unravel some of the mystery about Tibet in his mind. He says he wants to understand its people. The panoramic views, of course, will be a bonus.
Lhasa is my dream place. 梦想的地方. There is big mountains, blue sky, interesting people. So I want to understand understand this place. So I want to Lhasa.
As different people head to Lhasa for different reasons, the train becomes a melting pot of cultures. You can spot a Chinese singing Raj Kapoor's famous song to Indian tourists. And Westerners are opening their eyes to a new culture and all that it offers.
Enlightenment, yeah. Away from Western civilization.
But even in this journey of learning and exploration, the inevitable divide. The compartment that I'm sitting in right now is what is described as hard seats. This is a cheaper option in the train to Lhasa. This is what most locals end up using. The expensive options really being used only by foreigners and tourists. At $150, the most expensive and luxurious soft sleepers are mostly taken by foreigners. The second option, which is close to $100, is mostly occupied by Han Chinese traveling from mainland China. And the Tibetans can almost only be spotted in the seating class, referred to as hard seats. They spend the 48-hour journey in these relatively cramped surroundings, sleeping, eating and praying. The Chinese project this train, which at places goes through elevation higher than 5,000 meters, as not just an engineering marvel, but also a vehicle of change that has brought development to Lhasa. The Chinese government claims the train has increased tourists to Tibet by 70% since it started last year and saved 300 million yuan in transportation costs and helped integrate Tibetans into mainstream China. But clearly there are enough critics who see this as interference, and those who say the project is overburdening the infrastructure of Lhasa, destroying Tibet's intrinsic culture and curbing free expression. They may have a point, it seems. A lama on the train, excited at the sight of an Indian TV crew, seems to wither after a stern look from a passing Chinese official. A foreign tourist who's been to Lhasa twice before tells us how this movement of people from other parts of China into Tibet has not really led to intermingling or prosperity for ethnic Tibetans.
Well, I think, at least from my experience of being in Lhasa before, it looks like there's a very distinct section of the city that's Chinese section and a very distinct section of the city that's Tibetan. And I think when you get there, you can decide for yourself, how much mixing of the cultures actually does occur.
4 trains a day head from Beijing to Lhasa, bringing 2,500 people into the Tibetan capital each day. While many are curious tourists, the easy access to this new El Dorado is also bringing some enterprising Chinese. But for the Tibetans, it is Lhasa that will always be home and everything else. In Lhasa, Aradhana Sharma for NDTV.